Hello, hello, this is Joe from Nerd in Korea. We're continuing our budget series with the budget dual and mono lands. Yeah, good start. So we're going to take a look at these today, starting with some dual lands. I think a lot of these are not a big surprise, but we got a few that at least should be interesting options. So multiple versions of these exist. These are the filter lands. They come into play untapped. So that's something very important when you're looking at dual lands. Did they come into play tapped or not? Also, the tri-lands, a lot of them do as well. But they can be tapped for 2 mana, but require 1 to put in. Okay, 1 of any color, though, to get 2 mana out. Alright, so this is a little bit complicated, right? Because if you're thinking about it, it looks like you're doubling mana. You're not, right? If you tap 1, let's say with this here, Sky Shroud Expanse. Let's say you have a plains. You tap the plains to create the 1. Then you tap this to make up a white and a blue mana. You've tapped 2 lands and you made 2 mana. So that's not really, helping you, but on the other hand, it's a colorless, remember. 1 colorless to get 2 color mana. So let's say turn 1, you play the plains, and then you play Soul Ring, right? Then turn 2, you play this, and then you tap the Soul Ring to tap this, and you get the plains, and another white, and 1 blue, and 1 colorless. So you'll have 4 mana to turn 2, instead of the regular 3. For 3 of the mana being colored mana, I guess you'd have 4 mana anyway, but you'd have 2 colorless mana and 2 colored mana. So that might be an advantage there. But anyway, so there's all the combinations. Again, the 2 color combinations, there are 10 combinations, right? Of the 2 color, and this has all of them. They are 15 cents and under, so these are very, very cheap. And you can find pretty much 1 for any 2 color combination you need. Definitely worth considering anyway. I think these are actually quite a bit better. The show duels. When these enter the battlefield, you can reveal one of them, a basic land of one of their types from your hand, and they come in untapped. So Choked Estuary here is blue-black. So if you reveal an an island or a swamp, it doesn't have to be basic. So just an island or a swamp, then it comes in untapped. So once again, if you have a triome in your hand, you can show the triome, and if it has one of those, then it enters untapped anyway. Yeah, only the 5 allied colored pairs for this one are budget though. That's kind of the downside. They did release all 10. 5 of them are very new. They came with the Fallout set, which is really weird because, again, 5 of them came out like 23 years ago, and now they're finishing this land cycle 23 years apart. Very, very weird. But anyway, so you can see all of these ones are actually quite cheap, at least 25 cents and under. So, yeah. Game Trail. I'm pretty sure I have this in a deck. Tainted Lands next, $1 and under for these ones. So you can add a colorless, or you can add a color. Like this one, Tainted Wood, is black-green, and you can add that as long as you have a swamp, right? If you control a swamp, you can use this as a dual land. If you don't have a swamp, it'll just make the colorless mana. As long as you know you're going to have the swamps and everything, this is actually very good. I think this is better. Once again, enters untapped as well, so that's great. And you can see there, only 3 of these are budget also. I do have to point out that When we say $1 and under, it's for these three: Tainted Isle, Tainted Field, Tainted Wood. All right. The others are not, unfortunately. Yeah. And we're getting into the mono lands now. Well, this isn't maybe mono because it's colorless, but anyway. Roadside Reliquary. Tap to only create one colorless. If you pay 2 and tap and then sacrifice it, you can draw 1 card if you control an artifact and draw another card if you control an enchantment. Right? So potentially you're drawing 2 cards. But yeah. If you don't, you get nothing. And then that's, yeah, not great. This card at first glance is not great. But what you need to remember is at the beginning of the game, you have 0 lands and you have 7 cards in your hand. So the card draw is actually not that useful because if you have more than 7 cards, you have to discard. But you need land to cast spells. So you play lands, you play lands, you play lands. Throughout the game, you're going to have lots of lands. Often you start running out of cards unless you have a lot of card draw. So having extra card draw is a really good idea. And lands become less important, right? If there's 1 turn left in the game, your land doesn't really do anything even, right? If you're not going to tap it and cast spells, why have it? Here, this lets you say, okay, well, I've got lots of land. I can just blow up 1. I can get more cards that way, right? The value of land diminishes throughout the game. The value of card draw increases throughout the game. And that's kind of what this card does. For 20 cents, I think it's an interesting option. The next one is very similar though. So let's take a look at that. Cryptic Caves. Again, 19 cents. So the last one 20 cents. This is 19 cents. Tap to add 1 colorless mana. Same, right? Pay 1, tap, and sacrifice it to draw 1 card. Okay, so you might say, well, the other one was 2 cards. That's better. But it's 2 cards with conditions, right? You need an artifact and you need an enchantment. If you're doing this at the end of the game, which is when you should be doing it, you probably have both of those, but maybe not. Here, this guarantees 1 card draw. No conditions, other than, well, paying the mana and sacrificing it, but yeah. These are also much more useful if you have a deck where you can get land back out of the graveyard. If you can keep cycling lands out of the graveyard, this wouldn't be your first choice, but it's an option at least, So it will get you cards where many other things would not get you cards. And for 19 cents, it's probably worthwhile. And we're going to the mono lands now, the real mono lands. Enter tapped and only tap for 1 color, right? So right off the bat, that's real bad. Usually not very good dual and tri lands enter tapped. You can't use them on the first turn, basically. And then this only makes 1 kind of mana, right? Or these, not this. These only make 1 kind of mana. But what they do is you get to look at the top 4 cards of your library, you choose one of them and you exile it face down, and then once some other condition is met, you need to pay 1 of the mana color and then tap it to cast that spell for free. Okay, and it doesn't matter how much the spell costs, you're paying 1 mana. So let's say you have a spell that costs 8 to 10 mana, doesn't matter. As soon as you fulfill the condition, pay the 1 mana, tap it, boom, it's out. Also, this is an ability, so you can do it during other people's turns as well, not just your turn. So, yeah, very good. And this one is, if you attacked with 3 or more creatures this turn, you can do it. So that's very easy to do, right? I think this is not the easiest, actually. But it is very easy to attack with 3 creatures and then cast a spell for probably a massive rebate. Anyway, the other ones are Sheldock Isle, Mosswort Bridge. I think this is actually the easiest one. The white one is the attack with 3 creatures. This is just have 10 total power on the battlefield. Alright, so if you have 10, you probably do that by accident throughout the game sometimes, right? 10 is not a lot. That's not crazy high. 3 creatures having a total of 10 is very, very doable. If you have like dragons or something, probably 2, right? But yeah, pay 1 green, tap, and then boom, you've got a spell for like a massive rebate. That is really very good. Also, the Mosswort Bridge is the cheapest one for some reason, even though it's the easiest one to do, I think. So this Howltooth Hollow, this one, all the players have to have 0 cards in hand, including yourself. So I think that's by far the most difficult and the most unlikely. It's also the most expensive one. I don't know why. But yeah, 30 cents and under. This is the one that's 30 cents. The worst one. Because prices don't make sense. Honestly, they just don't. Which land is right for your deck? So there's quite a few things I would consider. First, which color do you need? Obviously, in Commander, you can only put things in that are the correct color identity, right? Even lands that tap for mana, if it taps for if it shows a mana symbol that isn't in your Commander's color identity, you can't put it in the deck, all right? It's illegal. Second, how many lands allow you to access that color of mana, right? So how many? Even in my example is a 40 card deck. You usually have about 18 lands. So if you've got a dual color deck like Golgari, maybe you have half black, half green. That's still only 9 and 9. That's not great, right? However, if you have something that lets you a couple of dual lands, you can go 8 with basic lands and then 2 with the dual lands. So really you have 10 lands that give you access to both of the colors you need. And that's much, much better. Third, is one color much more important than the others? How many cards do you have of each color? Right? Is it fairly even? Or are you splashing? Are you just putting like a little bit of one color in? Splashing is more common with like drafts and things like that, but maybe you have a deck that only has a little bit of one color? Well, then you probably don't need as many, mana creators for that. Last, do you need lands to fill another niche or function in your deck? So like I showed you guys these lands that allow you to draw cards. You can use it for that. I wouldn't recommend it. It's not efficient. Lands are not meant to draw cards. Just like different colors are good at different things, lands aren't really good at like doing things other than making mana. They're very, very good at making mana. They're not good at like, drawing cards and all that other stuff. Anyway, it's usually not ideal. Having something like Roadside Reliquary, I think it's a very good idea, but it's not your first plan, right? If you need card draw, you should do a lot of things before that. That's like kind of, I call like plan C or plan D on card draw, not plan A, not plan B, Yeah. Anyway, well, I hope you enjoyed this, and yeah, see you in the next one. All right, take it easy, and bye-bye.